So let's hop into, how did you get involved with DNA then? So walk me through the process of so you take these companies public, you're helping out, and then you go, hey, like I want to do this one. Maybe walk through the thought process behind DNA and what got you involved there.
Sure. Well, the name of my company is DNA Brands Inc. The ticker is DNAX. DNA Brands was actually formed in 2007, 2008 as a beverage company. Between 2007 and 2010, the prior management, they did a lot of R&D. They spent a lot of money on research, and they developed an energy drink that in 2010 and 12 won best tasting energy drink in the world by the World Beverage Competition. The name of the drink is DNA Energy. It was throughout most of the Southeast United States. It made it to California. It bypassed the middle of the country. And, one thing led to another. After 2012, when they won the award the second time, I wasn't there. I wasn't part of the company. But from what I can gather, financing sort of ran out. And they basically wound down production between 2014 to 2016. 2016 came in, and I actually got involved in the company because one of my very good clients was one of the major creditors in the company. So he basically called me up. He said, Adrian, listen, I need you to come in. I need you to step into this company. I don't really trust anybody else but yourself. Believe it or not, when I was a broker, I used to handle his finances. It was institutional money at the time. And he said, I don't really trust anybody else but you. I've worked with you for many years. You've seen my money. You've seen all the accounts that I've had. So he was the largest creditor in the company at the time. So I came in, and since then I've worked with the creditors. I've worked with the shareholders, and we have basically worked on cleaning up the books, cleaning up the balance sheets, cleaning up the investors, getting some of the note holders out, and it's been a process. It's been an arduous process for the past 3-4 years, but the company is actually now in the best position it's ever been. The note holders are handled. The shareholders they're positioned to the point where when I do find a company to acquire, everybody will benefit. Since then, I've rolled the company back once. We've reversed the stock once. And as of January this year, we have a qualified Reg A with the SEC. So that entitles me to raise a certain amount of money with institutional money.
Yeah, so cool. So you take this company, obviously they're struggling, you come in, you clean it up a bunch. Now you're the top dog. Do we want to maybe go into, what your goals are for DNA a little bit more? You're talking about acquisitions, and keep in mind the average person watching this might not fully understand. So if you want to not be extremely high level, but also be relatively simple in explaining kind of what your goals are for DNA and how you think you can make it grow.
Absolutely. Well, just going back to what you said there, I don't consider myself the top dog, not at all. I look at this company as my retirement. I look at this company as something I'm building for myself and the future of my family and my shareholders. So that being said, once I came in, I managed to take over the company. I am now the CEO. I'm the single board member. I actually hold all the votes in the company. I also managed to retain the IP in the company. So I do have the IP for the energy drink. So at any given time, I can start that back up and start producing that energy drink. There are a lot of energy drinks now being produced in many various spaces. I've been approached by several companies in the past, and I've turned them all down, only because the right offer hasn't come yet. As you know, there are many industries that are booming now in the drink space. So I'm still waiting for the right opportunity to present itself. But since then, last year I signed a fleet agreement with a company called Rideshare Rental. They actually trade on the NASDAQ, And what they do, their business model is very simple. They just own a series of cars, and they lease out their cars to Uber and Lyft drivers. So that being said, I signed a fleet agreement with them, and I have a fleet of cars that I lease out to Uber and Lyft drivers. Rideshare rentals take for me to use their name and to use their platform, which is an app. They take their little piece off the top, and I retain the balance from the revenue from the lessees.
Yeah.
Now, earlier this year, I also acquired a company called 954 Solar. 954 Solar is a local company here in the solar business, and our goal is to grow 954 Solar to the point where we are advertising and marketing nationwide to the commercial and residential solar industry. 954 Solar, they have developed a proprietary software whereby we can scale this software and we can target any market in the solar business, but more important, any market in any business. So our goal right now, we're targeting the solar market, and because that's what we know, 954 Solar, I have a partner who's involved. His name is Andrew. Hopefully you'll be speaking to him in the coming weeks. But Andrew's a pro in the solar business. He's been doing it for about 15 years. He knows everything about solar. So our rationale was, let's take his knowledge, let's take the fact that my company, we can raise money, let's start doing a lot of digital marketing nationwide, and start farming out the jobs as a brokerage, so to say.
Yeah, interesting. And we'll definitely go over, obviously you've got a bunch of moving parts
We
with
do.
DNA. So
There's
we'll make sure like each one gets its own, kind of fame, and we do a little video on each one. But maybe do you want to talk in general about, DNA as a kind of holding company? And you have a lot of things in there, like you already mentioned, an energy drink, you mentioned solar, you mentioned ride sharing. So from a outsider standpoint, it's like, well, they're not really related. How does this all come together? Do you want to maybe talk about what your goals are for the company and kind of how it all works together?
Sure. I know it might seem like so many moving parts, but remember, DNA is a holding company. Okay, it was built as a holding company to be the parent company holding subsidiary businesses. So that being said, my main goal in DNA, the goal has always been growth through acquisitions. So we are looking to grow the company by acquiring booming private companies. That's really, the goal is pretty simple. And I think by me acquiring 954 Solar, we're actually at the corporate headquarters here. We hit the ground every day, again, smiling and dialing. It's a little more involved now because we're actually spending a few bucks on digital marketing, bringing in leads. As far as solar is concerned, we want to focus the majority of our efforts on commercial jobs. But right now, there are so many incentives and motivating factors for the residential solar sales, especially on the west coast of California. I don't know if you know this, but any new homes being built have to be solar. That being said, there are many PPA incentives, what are called power purchase agreement incentives, whereby basically what's happening now is the utility providers on the West Coast, long story short, they are providing free solar systems to people on the West Coast so they can thereby retain any excess energy that these solar systems produce for the consumer. And the consumer benefits because his bill is getting chopped anywhere from 50 to 65%. So theoretically speaking, if you're a homeowner and you had a $400 energy bill every month, I call you up and say, Mr. Jones, I'm going to put a solar system on your home, and I'm going to chop your bill by about a half. So you're looking at about $190 to $200 bill, and you got a solar system for free on your home. That's pretty much a win-win for the consumer.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I know here in Canada they have tons of incentives as well. I know the U.S. has those as the same type of incentive. Here you had solar, they kind of, you get a little like tax kind of relief, I guess we could call it, on property taxes and things like that. I understand every government's doing something a little different, but solar is definitely kind of the way of the future for a lot of residential and even commercial jobs. I
Absolutely.
think the green industry in general is definitely getting a lot of love and might not be talked about as much because it might not be as sexy as gold or as sexy as Tesla stock.
I was
But
gonna
hey,
say, I was gonna mention there's a lot of sexiness. Tesla's doing wonders, and then they're leading the charge.
yeah,
That's primarily where we're going to focus the majority of our business. I found the solar side of our business to be a lot more lucrative than say perhaps the prior business or the fleet agreement that I acquired in the rideshare business. We're getting away from the rideshare business only because I've dealt with a lot of vandalism
mm,
to our cars. We have a fleet of cars, so we're going to be winding that side of the business down and focusing more on the solar side. The margins are much better. The digital marketing aspect of our proprietary software is scalable to the nth degree. So that's it's pretty set to us. That's pretty sexy.
yeah. No, obviously that's awesome. And hey, green has always had amazing margins, especially as of pretty recently. So makes sense. And we'll dive into solar and green stuff on another video. I don't want to get too crazy. Back
Okay.
to DNA here for a sec. So you mentioned holding company again, just to really make it so that everyone watching this understands, you're looking for companies that obviously you can help them and they can help you and they come under, your holding company. Do you want to maybe talk, anything else about that, or is it just straightforward? Look, we're a holding company. We've got other companies that are successful that are coming under us. Is there anything you want to add on top of that?
A big part of the solar acquisition had to do with a moral thing as well. My partner Andrew and I, we made a commitment to each other. We want to really focus on renewable energy. We want to leave the smallest carbon footprint that we can. We think we owe it to ourselves and the generations ahead of us. Um, there are other aspects and there are other companies that I have been looking at, but really, like I said, as a holding company, our main goal is to grow through acquisitions. And I really can't get into what I'm looking at and who I'm speaking to, but I promise you this: I'm always speaking to people, and I'm always working to build shareholder value and to my company.
Yeah. No, and awesome. And obviously, as some of those happen, I'm sure we'll chat about them more. But yeah, it's tough to talk about things that may or may not happen, of course. But it's good to know that you are busy, that you are on the prowl looking for some of these companies,
Always, always.
which is fantastic. I'd love for you to talk about the share structure and what you guys are doing with DNA. Do you want to touch on that at all?
Sure. Actually, as of now, there is about 786 million shares outstanding. Of that, I own 680 of it. So, the company is 90% insider owned. So, and anybody who knows anything about stocks knows that the principal is me. Obviously, I'm bound by certain selling restrictions. I can't go ahead and sell the stock. I'm bound by the 1% rule. So I think the investor should take solace in knowing that this company is not hugely diluted. As of now, there's only about 110 million shares in the float in the public hands. Actually, I think that number is actually a little less than that. It's probably about 100 million shares. So, that being said, I think any good news could really help this stock. And I'm working my tail off to bring in good news. So, with 100 million shares in the public hands at this price, that's only about $300,000 that the company's valued at.
Yeah.
So, that being said, I think our time is now. Our
All right.
time is now. I'm
I
not
think
diluting the
it's
stock.
important to mention, obviously, when you're looking at a stock, it's important to see how much is owned by management, to see where their kind of beliefs are. Obviously, if you're sitting on, 1% versus 90, it's extremely different. One, you're kind of working for a paycheck, and one, you're trying to work for the benefit of the company. And, obviously, that's what we're talking about. So I think that's fantastic that you own that many shares.
Yeah, well, I wish I was working for a paycheck, but that's not the case. Everything, all the blood, sweat, and tears go back into the company. And that being said, my payday is the long game. I'm in this for the long game. When I go to Wall Street, when I do a raise, I'm very particular about who I deal with. I'm very particular about who has stock. And I think that was the major problem with this company prior to my coming in. There was just so much stock on the street and so many players involved in this company that, that's what took the stock down ultimately, in my opinion. There was just a lot of toxic financing in this company. And since I've come in, I've worked with the creditors. I've worked with what's called the toxic financiers. And I've got them to see my side. Everybody is pretty much locked up one way or another, whether it be by hook or by trick. They've agreed to give me the time that I need in order to try to get the company going in the right direction. And I believe since I've come on board, like I said, I've reversed the stock. I've locked up the debtors. I've gotten rid of a lot of debtors. And more importantly, I've got a qualified Reg A, which just got approved in January. And obviously COVID hit mid-February, March. So I'm in a pristine position where I can actually go to the street now and raise money for the projects that I'm prospecting.
Yeah, and I think maybe important to talk, and a good point. You obviously this is not your first rodeo. You come from the kind of investment banking space, like you say. You want to talk about how important it is that you have a background, you know what to look for. You already mentioned, toxic financing. For a lot of these private companies, I always feel like a big issue they face is not knowing who to work with, how to trust someone, what to look for, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you're pretty well versed in the space. Do you want to touch on how important that is to a company?
Absolutely. I believe it's of utmost importance. I believe you should, always know who you're working with. I think a major mistake that many companies make is they get a paycheck dangled in front of their face because these toxic financiers, they do provide the money you need, but the terms are horrible. So, company ABC will see that and they need the money, they need to grow. So they'll go to Fund A and take money, Fund B and take money, Fund C and take money. And over the course of the next few months, A, B, and C, they're all running for the door because they want to get their money back. And 9 times out of 10, that's what collapses the stock. Because you have these funders who are getting shares at a certain discount. So if that stock goes down, it's in their favor because they're now getting more shares. You follow me?
Yeah.
They got the 10-cent stock at 5 cents. They sold out at 8 cents. And now they're getting the 8-cent stock at 4 cents times multiple funders. It's only inevitable that the stock is going to tank. Yeah. So what I've done is I've been able to work with the creditors. I've been able to hold them at bay. We've worked out agreements whereby, when things start going in the right direction, which they have, I believe my company is poised to go. We've just worked out an agreement that when the volume picks up, I'll free up a little bit for Mr. Jones. I'll free up little bit for the next guy. And we're working together to get the company going in the right direction. But more importantly, moving forward, I'm only working with one banker. And I think that's very important, is to know who you work with. I work with one banker. They're up in New York, and they are committed to me. I am committed to them. And I believe if most companies did that, they would succeed. I believe that's most companies' mistake is they get greedy, that they see money, and they take it from various sources, and those various sources are trying to get their money back and selling and putting pressure on the stock, and inevitably that's what drives the stock price down.
Yeah.
That's why it's referred to as toxic financing or spiral financing.
I think this was kind of a a good intro in terms of talking about yourself, kind of how you go about business, and also talking about DNA. I know we want to talk about solar bad, but again, I will push it off for one more video. We'll do
No
that,
problem.
potentially next time.
No problem. I'll make sure Andrew's here next time because he's actually the solar pro, and he's my go-to guy.
Oh, that's awesome. I know like regulatory stuff and all that. Like we
Yeah,
can.
that's my side. That's my side. He's the solar side. As he calls me, he says, "You're my paper pusher." I said, "Yes, Andrew, I'm your paper pusher." I push the paper, and I deal with the attorneys, and I deal with the accountants, and whatever headaches there are. Just that's my job.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get the fun job. Nice.
Like I said, we want to build a company, grow through shareholder value. You know what I mean? It's just build value. I have a lot of people in here from prior management. There's been a lot of money spent on this company, and my goal is to return something back to the investors.
Yeah, and so I was going to kind of leave you with the last question. Is there anything you wanted to say to people that have been investors, in the kind of old company, and now obviously they're kind of along for the ride? Is there anything you would say to them, for people that are like, like this is happening, but I haven't really been in touch? If we're trying to talk to them, what would you say to people that have been along for the ride?
Well, now that I've started working with you guys, I'd really stress the fact that I've worn so many hats in this company. It's been very difficult to always be in contact with the shareholders and with the public. But as I said, now that I've retained you guys, I'm working with you guys. I believe that we're going to get our message across in a much more organized, concise fashion with regular updates. And just addressing shareholder questions. I would encourage any shareholders to send us questions. If you'd like, I can leave you with the email where they can send it.
Oh yeah, I mean they can leave a comment below the video. We're gonna set up a Telegram group as well. People can join. That link will be here. There'll be lots of ways to get in contact with us. And yeah, if there's a question that someone wants answered, either we can throw it in the next video, or we can of course just answer it kind of there on the spot for them. But the best place is just to leave a comment.
Just to follow up on what you said though, over the course of the last 3.5 years, I found that the major questions and comments I've got is my lack of communication. Because I'm of the belief if I have nothing good to say, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to put out fluff. I'm not going to put out, pie in the sky ideas. So sometimes the communication might not always be there, but now that I have a good social media network and we're building that, there's going to be a lot more content to put out for the public, and a lot more management in that realm, so to speak.
Yeah, and I want to kind of stress that, a big part of what we're doing, obviously there's going to be updates and tons of things related to the company as well. But we're also going to be chatting with Adrian about, markets, other things in general. For people that are watching this, if you have a question or you want Adrian's insight on Tesla stock, for example, let us know.
I love it.
We'll bake that in as well. That's definitely what the goal is. It's more to get Adrian talking on a weekly basis and get, of course, people's insight. We can chat about anything as long as it's kind of related, as long as it's market or something related. I don't want to talk about the new Barbie that they just released, but as long as it's something relatable, we'll make sure that we squeeze it in some videos. It should go great, weekly updates. But Adrian, thanks for hopping on. I guess we'll chat next week, and I think this is great, and happy to kick things off.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I look forward to working with you guys.